Bring back the gold standard. Plenty of us liberty freaks have been screaming that for years, along with taxation is theft and end the Fed. But with inflation roaring out of control and the impotent lords of fiat currency failing us in the economy, it is time this troubled nation get back to sound monetary policy. Congressman Alex Mooney has introduced a bill to adopt a new gold standard for these new times. And it's about time because our dollar has lost 30% of its value since the year 2000 and 97% since the Federal Reserve Act was passed in 1913. That year was a real crap festival. Well, right now, the U.S. sits on the largest gold stockpile in the world, roughly 8,100 tons of the stable stalwart. So if we were on a gold standard, the value of our money would be tied to physical gold instead of some imaginary modern monetary theory, which is socialistic garbage that encourages money printing and deficit spending. Hint, we're doing that now, and it's not working unless you call out of control prices and a global recession success. Fiat currency and the lying stewards like Jerome Powell, who hates the idea of a gold standard, so does Paul Krugman. If they hate it, we should like it. It is vulnerable to the kind of inflation that, when not recognized early, talking about fiat currency, and when mislabeled as transitory, it's almost impossible to rein in. Human beings are flawed. I get that. They're narcissistic. Some of them are dumb. But when you combine all three of those attributes into a Fed chair, a Treasury secretary, and president, it's very easy to see how this arbitrary fiat system could have its way with an economy and bugger it into helpless submission. I don't want a buggered economy. I don't want to be buggered. I want an economy that services hardworking individuals who can see and measure the proof of their currency's value. I demand a return to rational monetary policy in this country and dare other countries to follow suit. We have been lied to, taken advantage of, marginalized by powerful elites who think we're too dumb to measure apples to apples and gold to dollars. Let's return to the gold standard now and force the incompetent buggerers to resign in disgrace. I love gold. And that's the memo. All right, the price of gold now about $1,650 per ounce. That's off its high of $2,078. That was back in March. The Washington bigwigs are still scared to go back to the old gold standard. Why? Do they hate gold, member? Oh, that should keep it. Joining me now to discuss West Virginia Republican Congressman on the House Financial Services Committee, Alex Mooney. Congressman, welcome to the show, number one. Number two, you just introduced that bill to get us back on the gold standard. Tell me about it.
Well, thank you for focusing on this important issue. I'm the first congressman since Jack Kemp in 1989 to put this bill in. Ronald Reagan supported getting back to the gold standard. I actually saw a show on Fox News recently where Art Laffer was talking about how it's been 40 years now since we got off the gold standard, and everything that was predicted when Richard Nixon temporarily took us off the gold standard, all the predictions have proven the opposite. Inflation's out of control, spending's out of control, our dollar's worth less to the average American, and it was terrible policy to get off it to begin with. So I thought we need to put this bill in and start having a real discussion about how to have our dollar bills be stabilized, much like you said in your introductory remarks.
All right, so tell me, and tell people who don't know a lot about the gold standard, what is the relationship between having a gold standard and inflation? Because people are now looking around for some sort of alternative, because in Washington, with this central banking, they have really screwed things up. But just explain to people how that happens.
Sure. Well, the federal government, with their out of control spending and continually, having more money being borrowed, the value of your dollar just goes down, as you said, by fiat. The value of the dollar is simply full faith and credit in the United States. It's not tied to anything. So the commissions and the president are able to spend more and basically take away your savings. Mm-hmm. The 30% number from 2000 is only getting worse under Biden, with inflation totally out of control. But people have done the right thing and saved all their lives, see their savings eroded through inflation, and that's primarily because the dollar's not tied to anything, and the federal government can simply print more, borrow more, and devalue your dollar. If we were tied to the gold standard, they couldn't do that. It'd be better for Americans who've saved. It's unfair, frankly, to Americans who've saved to have this done to them. So
yes,
a return to the gold
and
standard
it
protects your
does
savings.
disincentivize saving. We were talking about that 2 blocks ago. You know, a lot of people don't have any money because the environment that we're in, their dollar doesn't go as far. So they're having to dip into whatever savings they had and deplete that. And now there are obviously fears, very certain fears, of a recession that is looming. So if this bill were to pass, if you were miraculously able to get bipartisan support and support from enough rational, economically minded Republicans, what would it do and when would it take effect?
It would protect your money, so your dollar bill would be worth the same in 20 years. It would take effect in about 10 years as we get it stabilized and tie it to the dollar, to the gold that's available. And I want to mention importantly, the left in this country has been completely apoplectic over the rise of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general. But the dollar bill is not tied to anything either. So it's really no different. It's hypocritical of people to criticize cryptocurrencies when the dollar bill's simply faith and credit of the United States, which is 31 trillion in debt and growing.
Yes.
And so, I think if the left was serious about stability in this country and the criticisms they have of cryptocurrency, they would go to the gold standard. But they don't really want to because they want to manipulate the dollar bill and borrow more and use inflation essentially to take it from people who have saved and give it to people who have not saved.
No, we should allow people to keep their hard-earned money and stop stealing from them and applying it to projects that have absolutely no effect on their lives. For the record, I love gold, I love crypto, and I love freedom. Congressman, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.